Hello and welcome to Who Watches Who, a Doctor Who podcast with me, Matthew, and...
And I'm Scott, hello.
Hello, Scott. It's not the second time
Always
you did that.
Always awkward when we're doing introductions, isn't it?
I wanted to say, like, a fun intro for this one, like, with attach a quote from the episode, like what you did last week. I thought that was lovely and charming, and not stolen from any other podcasts that are more famous than us. And I couldn't think of one. I went through the whole episode. I was like, none of this really works. I could say something about a time corridor, but like...
See, last week I only did it to make you sweat this week.
Oh, it worked very well. And this week, if you're listening and have somehow not read the episode title, we are covering the Ressurrection of the Daleks, a Fifth Doctor story? Yes, Fifth Doctor story. The Peter Davidson.
Peter Davidson. Pete Davidson is someone else entirely different.
And this was actually my first ever episode with the Fifth Doctor.
Oh.
And I have to say, I mean, we'll get more into it as the episode progresses. Have to say, he's a violent man.
He's usually not this violent.
Very violent man. Didn't second guess it at all.
He's more akin to sort of a 10th kind of Doctor persona. He has darker moments, but not really that much on screen, if that makes sense.
He's definitely not against killing. That's for sure.
Yeah, I came out of left field.
You did. We'll get into it, but yeah, it really did. This episode first aired on the 8th of February 1984, according to my research, which apparently was a Wednesday.
Yes.
What a weird day to have Doctor Who on.
Okay, so during this time, starting with the Fifth Doctor, Doctor Who was like all over the schedule. Sometimes it would be on Mondays and Tuesdays, sometimes Thursdays and Fridays. That was until like the Sixth Doctor's era. I mean, it moved back to Saturdays for like a year. And then with the Seventh Doctor, it moved back to like Wednesdays and Thursdays. I'm not sure. But it kind of started competing with Coronation Street for a long time.
That's not where you want Doctor Who to be.
That is part of the reason why the show got cancelled, because it just could not compete with Coronation Street.
I know, yeah. Not in any chance in hell could it compete with Coronation Street. Probably couldn't do it today still. In 1984, do you know who the President of the United States was? I've got all sorts of tidbits, and by this I mean I have 3, so I really stretched to find some information.
Ronald Reagan, dude.
Yes, it was. It was Ronald Reagan.
Do you know why I know that?
How? Oh, Back to the Future.
Yes,
Back to the Future poster.
I'm pointing to a movie poster in my bedroom. Back to the Future.
Yeah. Which Ronald Reagan famously starred in.
No, if you know Back to the Future is a famous quote where Marty travels back from 1985 and he tells Doc Brown that Ronald Reagan is the President of the United States. Christopher Lloyd's character does not believe him at all. Have you ever seen Back to the Future?
Yeah, yes I have. I've seen all 3.
Good man.
I saw the first one, the second one more recently. I saw the third one when I was a kid. But I mean the third one's the worst one, so.
The third one's the worst one, but it's still really good.
It's still fun. The second one's a really fun time travel adventure.
It is, yes.
Mm-hmm. Do you know who the Prime Minister was? In the UK, that is.
Margaret Thatcher?
Ding, ding, he's on the money.
Great.
Boy knows his old leaders.
I wasn't sure how long she ran for. It was something like...
forever.
Some say she's still there today.
But also, the 8th of February was the first time in history that there were 8 people in space.
The Doctor and his 7 companions.
Yeah. And it also was the 14th Winter Olympic Games held in Sarajevo, Yugoslavia.
Yeah, we'll get to more Olympic stuff later because this is kind of relevant to the episode in a weird way. Ooh.
Interesting. Look at that. It's combined, and we didn't even mean to. Can you guess what the number one song was the week of the 8th of February 1984?
1984. Haven't got a clue. I wasn't born then, so it could have been anything.
I have the top three songs, and these are three. I mean, I recognize two of the songs, but the number one, I assume, is a song I know if I heard it. The number one song on this week is "Relax" by Frankie Goes to Hollywood.
Good song, yeah.
The number two song is Radio Gaga.
Yes! 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 Queen! Sorry.
Yeah, that's number two. And then number three is Girls Just Want to Have Fun by Cyndi Lauper.
Another good song.
What a top three.
Did you say you haven't heard of Girls Who Want to Have Fun?
No, I've heard of the only one that's Relax, but that's one I'm pretty sure I'd know if I heard it.
Yeah, okay, that's fair. It's a decent song. But Radio Gaga is... my favourite band is Queen, so Radio Gaga is my life. So it's a solid song.
It's a good song.
It really is.
But what a week of music. Like that's a really good musical week. And it's nice to actually have songs in the top like 3 to 10 that I decided to look at that I recognize.
Yeah, I remember when we did our review of the 11th Hour, I looked up the lyrics of one of the songs that was number one. I can't believe those were song lyrics. It was wild.
Art's not dead. The number one film at the box office. It's not a film I've seen. It's a film I've kind of heard of. It's got a pretty good cast. You have any guess?
No clue. Give it to me.
Terms of endearment.
Okay, is that the James L. Brooks movie?
Yes.
Yes.
It's got Jack Nicholson in it.
I haven't seen it either. I just know from just general knowledge about The Simpsons, because James L. Brooks runs The Simpsons, and that's all I know.
Interesting. I've not seen Terms of Endearment. Although, according to Wikipedia here, Terms of Endearment reclaimed its number one spot on the 11th weekend of its release. That's a weird comeback to make.
Yeah, wonder if it was like Valentine's Day or I don't know when. When was the 11th week?
Yeah, maybe it's February time, isn't it? So February 20 something is.
When did it come out? February 14th is Valentine's Day.
I know Valentine. See, yeah, maybe that was the week that it happened.
Yeah, so the movie came out November 23rd, 1983, so it would have been the 11th week, Valentine's Day, I guess. Makes sense.
Yeah, that does make sense that it would reclaim number one if it's a rom-com. Not one I'm familiar with, probably not one I'm really going to watch.
It does have Danny DeVito and John Lithgow.
Yeah, it's got a really good cast. But yeah, probably not gonna watch it anytime soon. Unless I might watch it tonight. Who knows? Maybe I'm a liar. But that's all I have tidbit wise. February 8th, 1984 wasn't a particularly busy day.
Yeah, but
besides,
still not.
Of course, Doctor Who
and Queen.
and Queen, yeah.
Always Queen in my life.
But shall we move on to the writer's deep dive, Scott?
So the writer of this episode was Eric Saward. He worked on Doctor Who between 1984 and 1988 as a script editor. He wrote episodes such as The Visitation, Earthshock, and would go on to write the next Dalek story, Revelation of the Daleks. And he also wrote the first ever audio drama for his show, Slipback. It stars Colin Baker, and it was oddly produced during a time where the show's future wasn't certain, because in 1985 the show went on a hiatus for 1980. The show went on hiatus for like 18 months.
Ucha.
Yeah, and it wasn't you know the song Doctor in Distress?
Yes.
The song was written during this time because the show went on hiatus.
If you've not heard Doctor in Distress, we played it in another episode, but it's so
Play it
good.
again.
Here it is again.
Hurrah.
Doctor in distress. Let's all answer his SOS. Doctor in distress. Bring him back now, we won't take less.
Still holds up. Great
It's
song.
Needs to be hitting those charts. It needs to be up there with Queen.
A lot of his stories were quite violent, with scenes of hangings, acid baths, cannibalism, poisonings, suffocation by genocide. And you can believe that from watching this episode, can't you?
Yeah, that was one thing that really picked up with this episode. Is at the start, I was kind of like, haha, it's cheesy. Look, all these people are getting gunned down, and they're going, I've been shot. And then, like, when it gets into, like, the gore effects from people that have been killed by the Daleks and stuff, it's pretty brutal looking. Like...
See, I was quite terrified by this episode when I first saw it in, like, 2007. I was, like, 10 years old. And just seeing scenes of realistic policemen with realistic guns shooting down random people in the streets kind of terrified me. It was scary.
I'm desensitized to violence, so
I was 10. Interestingly enough, this episode has like 58 deaths.
Jesus.
And it's a higher body count than the Terminator.
Wow.
Yeah, it's crazy if you think about that.
For a Wednesday afternoon.
Michael Grade, the guy who ran the BBC at the time, absolutely hated how violent the show was getting, which was a reason why the show got cancelled in 1989. And you can understand why the violence was a bit of a hard topic at the time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And like, even if you ignore the ongoing socio-political elements of the time, if you look at Doctor Who as a show, you know, where it starts off with this old man and his granddaughter going through history, you know, and like there's some violence and stuff, but people aren't really getting gunned down in the streets. There's not these like murder machines zapping like lines of people and things like the show is completely different from how it originally started out, other than it's like just as cheap and also has a time traveling box.
In 1988, when Eric Soward left the show, he was asked what he would change if he could change anything throughout his time. And the one thing he said was John Nathan Turner. John Nathan Turner at the time was the producer of the show from like 1980 till 1989. And he was apparently a really, really awful person to work with. One of Soward's problems with John Nathan Turner was that he hired unsuitable and inexperienced writers, making his job as a script editor difficult. Soward claims to have done more than he should have had in his job title, and he thinks he has many uncredited episodes because he'd heavily have to rewrite what others had written. So it sounds like a really tough time. And
it definitely doesn't sound like everything was you know, hugs and kisses backstage in Doctor Who. It seen in turmoil, really.
Yeah, we'll get to more stories behind the scenes later on, just how outdated he was in comparison to now. Like, you can probably see from the way the companions are dressed, like short skirts and high heels, sort of that kind of nature. He was heavily in control of what people wore and how the episodes were written. It wasn't the best time for Doctor Who.
No, the beginning of the end for it, really.
So Eric Soward still actually writes Doctor Who. He works he does some Lytton comic books, who is a character in this episode for Resurrection of the Daleks. You know, the main guy who finds Davros, that's Lytton. You know who that is? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, this episode was supposed to air during season 20, and I think this is season 21?
Season 21, episodes
Yes.
11 and 12.
So, it was supposed to air during season 20, but it was postponed because of the electricians at the BBC went on strike during this time. Now, the 1980s were like a weird period where every week people seemed to go on strike. Like, there was minor strikes, electrician strikes. It was a very weird time.
Tumultuous time in the UK. The Doctor's in distress. You know? It's...
He was. So, Peter Grimswald was supposed to direct this episode. He did Earthshock, which was another Eric Saward episode, like in the year before, I guess. So it's a very famous Cyberman story, and it's very good. You should, we'll watch it eventually.
There's a lot of Doctor Who that's very good.
So while the episode was postponed, Grimswade had a dinner without John Nathan Turner, and John Nathan Turner got very angry that he wasn't invited, so he got fired from his job. But in reality, Grimwald was going to have like a separate dinner with John Nathan Turner, but he just got fired because he didn't invite him into the first dinner.
Wow. Talk about a little bit of an ego.
Again, we'll get to more later on. He's not a bad man. He did some good work in the show, especially during the later seasons when Sylvester McCoy came along. He's not entirely to blame for the show's downfall, but he's a bit of a odd figure in the Doctor Who history. So, at this time, Doctor Who usually ran on Thursdays and Fridays. Each episode was about 25 minutes long, but because of the Winter Olympics, the Thursday and Friday slots became unavailable, so we decided to put the two episodes, shoved them together, so we were both 15 minutes on Wednesdays. So that's why we were on Wednesdays this time instead of Thursdays and Fridays.
Ah, and that would be the Winter Olympics in Yugoslavia, as mentioned earlier.
Do you remember that time? Do you remember that Winter Olympics?
Yeah. I'm pretty sure I won a couple medals while I was there. But yeah, that makes sense. I was wondering why this is particularly is a two-parter, with each part being 46 minutes long, whereas Classic Who, it's 20-minute episodes with like usually 4 to, I don't know, 8 parts.
Yeah, most stories were like 4 to 6 parts. Actually, the following year, the show started pumping out 45-minute episodes with the Colin Baker's first season. So it was an experiment that didn't work out, because the following year they went back to 25 minutes. So the show between 1970 and 1985 until this season had 26 episodes per season. So of course when they went to 45-minute episodes, they shut that down to 13 episodes. And when the 45-minute episode format didn't work, they still kept the 13 episodes run. So the season was technically cut by half. That's how bad things were in Colin Baker's second season.
Ucha. For Colin Baker, at least he's like had audio drama stuff, hasn't he?
Yes, he's had his own regeneration episode because he didn't actually get to regenerate in the show because he was fired.
Oh, God. Poor man.
So surprisingly, considering how violent this episode is, apparently the most complaints of this episode came from the prison crew member smoking in one scene. Not the dozens of people getting shot down, but a person smoking.
That's viewer morals for you, isn't it? You know, you can watch countless people get gunned down in the street, but if like a dog gets shot, that's travesty. You know, like.
So Eric Sayward regretted this script eventually and later on in life. He said it was too violent, the body count was too high, and there was too many subplots. Like, the main subplot is Daleks wanting Davros to find a cure for a virus. But the subplots were clones to invade Earth, clone of Doctor to assassinate Time Lords, and Davros building new Daleks. There was too much in there.
I completely forgot that they wanted the Doctor to go to Gallifrey and assassinate the Time Lords.
The episode ends on a weird note as well. It's like, we'll get to that, but just a very odd ending where it just, nothing was wrapped up.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll get there, but did he abandon a companion? I'm not familiar with these companions. But...
so Tegan left on her own accord because she had enough of the
Right.
violence, which makes sense for this episode.
And this was her last episode.
Yes.
What a weird way to get rid of a companion.
We'll get to more about that, but she actually
Yeah.
wasn't supposed to leave at this point. It wasn't until rehearsals for this episode that she was told she was leaving.
Oh my god.
So David Tennant?
Yeah, David Tennant was there.
So Peter Davison was about to leave like 2 stories down the line. So she wanted to leave when he left. But due to some thing John Nathan Turner wanted, she wound up leaving this episode, and it wasn't until the rehearsal she found out. Like,
Yeah,
so
because it's a really, like, we'll get into it when we see it, but to me anyway, it just kind of felt lackluster in her goodbye. You know, it was like, I'm not coming with you, Doctor. Okay. And then she's like, I'll always remember you, the end.
yeah, they literally had to write that scene like 4 weeks before it was shot. It's not
Ridiculous.
good, is it?
Yeah.
So, like, the last fact about this episode is Brian Miller plays some of the Daleks, and you would know Brian Miller as Elizabeth Sladen's husband. That's, like, an interesting fact.
That is an interesting fact. Is he the Dalek with the weird voice? Because some of the Daleks I thought had really weird voices.
I imagine he could be. Do you remember in Deep Breath where the Doctor runs into Homeless Man?
Yes.
That's also the same man.
Wonderful. He's like Warwick Davis with Star Wars. He's just in every one of them.
Yeah. So that's it for the trivia for this episode.
Awesome. Shall we get into part 1 of the Resurrection of the Daleks?
Absolutely.
Dun dun dun. Okay, here we go. I have it pulled up on BritBox, so I'll remember everything that happens. The episode...
I have it pulled up on Dailymotion.
Wow. It's disgusting. I can just give you my BritBox login.
I have the DVDs, so it's just me watching it on my laptop.
The episode opens with the theme song. Hell yeah. And I think that this is a pretty funky theme song. There's only one thing about this entire intro I don't like. I really like, we see the stars form Peter Davidson's face. We see his face come in, and then his lifeless, hollow eyes just fucking come at you as his face comes right into the forefront of the screen, and it's so unnerving.
Yeah, usually the Doctor, like after this, the Doctor would end up winking to the camera or something. But yeah, you're right.
It's so unnerving. It's like a horror film. His eyes are so wide, and he's just coming for you.
My favourite part about the theme song is the end credits when the middle 8 kicks in. It is the best middle 8 of Doctor Who history. Do you know what middle 8 is?
No.
I sent you a clip earlier of Peter Capaldi singing the middle 8, so go listen to that.
I shall. I'll stick it in the video now. Yes, I'm sure the link is safe.
It's the bit that goes. Do 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 do. etc. Get the middle eight back.
Wonderful. And now I know what a middle eight is, and I'll never forget it. Thank you, Peter Capaldi.
It's like the best part of his theme song, but it's shoved to the end credits. I love it.
It's a pretty
amazing.
good theme song, you know? I don't think it's that terrible as far as Doctor Who intros go. It's funky, synthy, you know?
Better than the Matt Smith theme song, that's for sure.
You shut your fucking face. But the episode opens with it's the old man's just rolling a fag, as far as I can tell.
Yep, that means something else in America, so we should explain.
A cigarette.
Sorry, Americans.
He's rolling a fag. And then the next thing he knows, some sci-fi men come bursting. There's a lot of warehouses in this episode. They come bursting out of one of the warehouses. They're completely confused and lost as to where they are. And they're like, "Oh, just screw it, just run. Well, just run away." And then the police show up and murder everybody. They gun everybody down. They even gun down the man and his cigarette. Except for two lucky guys who managed to hide away, whose names I don't remember, but one of them's a big character.
Yeah, their names are Galloway and Stein. Or Steen.
Is Galloway the one with the earring that ends up...
Steen is a guy with the earring and the stutter.
Oh, Steen. Steen's the more important one.
Or Stein. S-T-I-E-N. Stein.
Oh, God, I don't know. Did they ever say his name?
I don't know. I wrote down Stein, white hair, stutter. Galloway, tall, dark hair.
See, he had Stein has a stutter throughout both episodes that he's in. They don't really play up his stutter till towards the end, when he's breaking free of the Dalek spell or whatever it is, the brainwashing. And because I've been watching a fair bit of first, second Doctor stuff, where they really had one take to do everything, so sometimes people stammer over their lines. I just thought he couldn't remember his lines for most of the episode.
William Hartnell was the most famous for forgetting his lines.
Yeah.
So the stutter was actually something the actor actually brought in, as was the earring. I don't know why he wanted the earring.
The stutter I can get with, because it's his own consciousness trying to fight back. The earring I don't get. Maybe the Daleks just are big fashion people.
So in the commentary, the director was like, sometimes actors make requests and you really want this actor to jump on board your project, and so you just have to say yes.
Even if it's a bad idea, you just gotta say yes.
Also, in this, before we even see the Doctor, 9 people are dead from my count.
So,
9 people.
See, it didn't register with me how much people were dying because, it's a relatively dated episode of science fiction TV from the 80s. And so I was just kind of enjoying the cheesiness of watching the people die, and it just completely went over my head that we're watching Doctor Who and so many civilians have just been murdered.
If it wasn't a family show and they showed blood, it would be on another level.
Yeah, it would be like a Tarantino film, the amount of blood that would be there.
Also, the location they chose to shot this episode looks really nice. I think it looks like a dystopian kind of warehouse.
It's a nice looking warehouse that they're at. It's really grungy and grimy looking. It's just budget stuff and things like that. I always want to be able to see a little bit more, where I'm show me just something outside of a warehouse for a moment.
Of course, but it's still 1980s Doctor Who, and the budget was really slashed at this point.
Yeah, the budget was 50p and a cup of tea. But we then cut to the Doctor, and I'm guessing it's from another episode because they're in complete distress.
So what I remember of last episode, the cliffhanger was that they got stuck into a time corridor, which was which is like basically a transporter beam. It's taking them to the Daleks or whatever.
Right. They bring up the word time corridor. They say it maybe 20 times in the whole episode, constantly. And in my head, I was just like, I don't know what that is, so I'm just going to guess it's the vortex, because the image they show kind of looks like the vortex. Like,
It's a lot like the time eddies we dealt with in the Ninth Doctor audio drama. It's just a lot
sci-fi
of
thing
gibberish.
for thing to happen.
Yeah, Doctor Who is like really built on just gibberish, especially like during the Moffat era.
All good sci-fi, I think, is built off gibberish. But who are these companions, right? Because these aren't two companions I'm familiar with at all. There's the ginger guy who doesn't say much, is apparently a really good sneak, and then there's the lady person who leaves at the end of the episode.
So the ginger guy is Turlo. He was actually introduced as like a kind of villain to begin with. He was kind of like conspiring against the Doctor from what I can remember. I don't remember much of this. It's a trouble with this era because there's the companions really started to feel one note, and like Turlo
It's a feeling that'll come crashing back into Doctor Who.
I counted how many lines Turlo had. He had 42 lines, which isn't much. And it's
Across 80 minutes of film.
Yeah, and most of it is like, goodbye, that's his final line. And like, maybe like 15 of those are asking the Doctor questions.
The one thing I liked about him in this episode is he was a companion who, for the most part, seemed to be able to hold his own, you know? Like, he gets like basically left on the spaceship with all these Daleks, and he just deals with it. He's like, I'm just going to sneak about, I'm just not going to get caught, and I'm just going to live. You know? Like, eventually he does get caught, but I thought it was pretty impressive.
I do not like his character. I find his character to be bland.
Oh yeah, he definitely doesn't have much personality, but like, as my first impression of him, I was hoping to get more in the second episode, which I just didn't get. I've never seen this companion before in my life. I thought he was more interesting to me than the female companion. Who is she? The one that's in bed the entire time?
Yeah, because she got hit in the head by a plunger. Tegan.
Yeah. Yeah.
She's also Australian, and she's like an air hostess, whatever you call it. And that's a big part of her character, because she wants to go back on airplanes and stuff. I do not care for her.
That's okay. She's gone by the end of this story anyway. But we then cut away from the TARDIS after I think they stabilize and land somewhere, or they land in the location. And we cut back to, actually no, they're still rocketing around, as I'm seeing here. We cut back to the warehouse. See, a lot of the issue I had with this episode, there's a lot of story, sure, but I think there's, especially in this first two parts, which are immersed into one, really nothing happens until that second part. You know?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, so this first part is a lot of, you know, you're watching people die, they get into the location, and then they're like, oh, what's happening here? Oh, it's Daleks. And then they get into stuff, but it takes like 20 minutes for that to happen.
I agree, yeah. It does take a while for things to kick off.
So we cut back to the warehouse for a moment, where we see Galloway and, was it Stein?
Yeah.
Yeah, we see Galloway and Stein. They're exploring the warehouse, like, oh boy, where are we? What's going on? And Galloway runs into a Dalek trooper. I'm going to call them. I'm not familiar with Daleks having human soldiers. This wasn't a piece of Dalek lore I was super familiar with, and I found it incredibly weird the entire time.
Well, Daleks sometimes they have humans, sometimes they don't. It just depends on the script, I guess. Like, most notably, I would say Daleks in Manhattan, where they mutated humans into pig creatures to be their slaves. But it's the most recent example of them having humans as their, like, servants.
Yeah, it was it was just weird. Their outfit was both amazing and just so dumb.
If you listen to the audio commentary, the director and Peter Davison and the woman who plays Tegan, they just make fun of all the costumes and the hats, and it is an absolute riot.
There, to be fair, there's a lot to make fun of with the costumes that I'm sure we're gonna get into when we get to the I guess gas mask scene.
Yeah.
But we cut back to the TARDIS as it's crashing, and I thought there was a really cool effect here, where like the screen goes all like kind of crinkly and the audio gets all distorted and stuff. And I was like, oh, that's really cool.
So apparently they did this. I listened to the commentary. I can't remember exactly, but it was something like tinfoil, and it was like a mirror, and they projected the camera onto the tinfoil mirror, and they did some cool effect that was very like homemade kind of. It really works. It looks cool.
Yeah, that it does look really cool, and that's a really like clever way of thinking of doing a practical effect on a really low budget. We then cut to, I'm guessing these guys are Daleks because they look like Nazis. A ship commander who I'm guessing he's locked onto the TARDIS. I'm really not sure, but it's just because I was really focusing on one point, and it was the point that made me just giggle to myself. We're panning into his face. We're getting into a close up as he's like telling the ship to prepare and get ready. Battle stations, everybody. And then he goes, battle speed. Like, that's not a speed. What's that? Like,
it was probably just filler. You know what I mean?
You know, the Enterprise has got warp speed, so we need something similar.
See, I didn't even pick up on that line. I was too busy looking at like his. It was like a weird like arrow-y kind of hat. It was like
his weird cap. Yeah,
it kind of reminded me of Peter Pan. I don't know.
It's like if Peter Pan joined the Nazis. But the TARDIS finally stabilizes and lands. And I just want to take a minute, and I really like Peter Davidson's outfit for the Doctor.
It is understated, but it's still a bit of weird in it. It's kind of like Jodie Whittaker's outfit. It's weird, but understated at the same time. I love it.
Yeah, I really like his jacket. I like the hat he gives it. You know, the celery. You know, that's just a bit of quirkiness that's fun, and just made me think he must smell really weird. They land the TARDIS, and we cut to a spaceship where with more Peter Pan uniforms, and these guys are essentially the rebels. They're like fighting against the Daleks.
Yeah, the women have like pinned up hair. They kind of look like Princess Leia. You know what I mean?
Yeah, the thing that I spotted with that, it's like a headband that goes around their head, but then their hair is curled up around the headband when it gets to their temples. So like, they are one with their headband. It's going to be a nightmare to get that off. Like if someone yanked it, you're going to lose a lot of hair.
Yeah.
Actually, my assumption here is that these people work with the Daleks on the ship.
What's your assumption? No, they don't.
No?
They are
because I remember them talking about the captain wanting to overthrow the captain, but then just biding their time because she's about to get a promotion.
They are guarding Davros from the Daleks because they know that.
Yes.
Because they know that Davros is a prisoner, and they know the Daleks are probably going to go out and find him. So we're trying to keep Davros from harm's way. Which, like, it'd probably be easier just to kill him. Like, keeping him in suspended animation doesn't quite work when the Daleks...
the way Davros explains it as well, it's basically torture. Because he said that he was conscious the whole time.
Yeah.
Like,
I think the Doctor near the end of the episode has a valid reason for wanting Davros to die. It's like It's the whole
Yeah.
it's the whole argument of Genesis of the Daleks, where he goes back in time to where the Daleks were created, and he has the opportunity to destroy the Daleks before they create any danger throughout the universe. It's just like kill them now, and then the situation will be fine. It's okay to kill Hitler, honestly.
But you got to think about the repercussions that would have. It's a big moral question.
True, but still. But the Doctor has like battled the Daleks 1,000 times at this point. How many people have died? But they keep on coming back.
Yeah, there's always one ship that's behind the moon, and escapes. But the starship that these people holding Davros are on comes under attack from the Daleks, and just everything's going wrong. They're having a very bad, not good day. So we're going to cut away from them and go back down to Earth, or I guess is it Earth? What planet are they on?
It's Earth. It's London. It's just outside the Thames Bridge, whatever you call it.
It could have literally been on like a junkyard planet. Like it being on Earth, I think doesn't really add much to the story, other than it's like Earth's in danger again.
It really doesn't add much at all, but still, it's interesting. It's fine. Earth isn't really in danger. It's like
the Daleks threaten to invade Earth, or again, there's like 20 plot lines going on in this story, but
yeah, the Daleks want duplicates of like prime ministers and all that to kind of infiltrate Earth, but there's nothing to it really.
The Doctor and his companions find Stein.
Write it down.
Stein.
Write it
Stein.
down.
Like a beer stein. A stein of beer. It's spelt differently. They find Stein having a nap. I'm sure he wasn't hurt in any way. And they check him up, and he's like, "Oh God, what's happened? What's happened?" And during this we keep cutting back to the docking of the ships in space, which I thought was pretty cool.
Yeah.
As he's talking about various time corridors, and then he asks if he's got anything to eat, and the Doctor just ignores him, and then he's like, "I'm really hungry. Have you got any food?" And the Doctor ignores him again, and then walks off. Which is Peter Davison's a pretty mean Doctor in this episode.
I do not remember this at all. When is this?
Yeah. About 13 minutes in, Stein, he goes, "I'm hungry. You got anything to eat?" And the Doctor just disregards that question and continues to ask him stuff.
Give me a second.
"You sure you've got nothing to eat? Relax, I'm going into the warehouse," replies the Doctor.
Also, the model work in this episode is really good.
Yeah, I think all the effects are like minus the obvious like slightly aged digital effects. The like practical effects look pretty good. The Daleks themselves, there was only one Dalek that I thought looked like a piece of shit. The rest of them looked fine.
Yeah, one of the Daleks have like a crooked head, kind of.
Yeah, yeah. And there was a Dalek that, whatever the ginger companion's name was gone, he's got a really stupid name. There was a Dalek that drove past him, and he was hiding from it, and like you saw the back of the Dalek, and like all of its like pads are slightly squint, and you can see the paint, and then like it goes through the door and just stops.
These props have been through hell and back.
Yeah, and you just got to really commend Doctor Who for being able to use like all the props that they can for everything, and like stretching their budget.
Like the director, throughout the commentary, the director just makes fun of everybody carrying around toy guns. We wouldn't. It's insane how much is just. It's all cheap. All the outfits are like used from Blake 7, and like does not look good.
Yeah, speaking of not looking good, we then cut to back to the starship. The Daleks are about to breach the doors, so everybody gets their helmets ready. There's one lady who can't quite get it over her hair to start with, and so she fumbles a bit. But their helmets are... I don't know how to describe them. If you imagine, I guess, a toilet seat with a window. And then I thought it was so stupid. I mean, I got it later on when they pulled them down, that they only cover the top of their head. And they have this window, and I was like, why is there a window? Why is you wearing your helmet like that? Put it over your face. And then they eventually pull it over their faces when it's revealed that they're a gas mask. And just why not always have it on? And that way, you're not caught off guard.
Yeah, it's a bit something. There's a lot of stupid moments, but I guess it's for the benefit of the microphone picking up the audio. Maybe. I guess that's the only reason why. I'll give him some slack.
And then the intense action scene starts where more people die. The Daleks shooting their lasers looks really good. When the humans shoot their lasers, it basically looks like someone forgot to add the effect, because it's just the LED light and then that's it. So,
Yeah, it does.
Like, if they just added a laser beam, it would have looked so much better.
Sometimes the laser beams from the Daleks kind of go backwards in some shots. It's not the best, but it's also...
Sometimes they have very harsh cut-off lines where they just stop.
Yeah. I'm watching it right now. It's not great.
At least they have lasers, you know? The human guns are atrocious. I think they're some of the worst lasers that Doctor Who has had. So they managed to defeat the Daleks after blowing up a mine. And it was a pretty nice looking explosion on the Dalek. Like, there's quite a few Daleks that actually explode in this. Like, they were destroying some Dalek props in this episode.
I love the little green... It's like the little green blobs have never been grosser.
Yeah, they look absolutely... Again, one of the few effects that are nice. And then there's a scene here that I'm looking at now, and I don't remember. One of the Dalek commanders is using Saruman's crystal ball from Lord of the Rings to watch over what's happening.
It's kind of a trope in Doctor Who. In Earthshock, the Cyberman used kind of like a crystal globe to just watch over the plot. It's
a real get out of jail free card to explain some exposition.
It really is.
To have some characters find out information they have no way of really knowing.
Because they need to know the Doctor is there, and they need to know what to do and all that. We need to keep an eye on things. It's also like the crystal ball from Wizard of Oz.
Yeah. We then cut to one of many scenes of the Doctor and his companions walking through the warehouse. Very slowly they're walking through. And then a bunch of soldiers arrive. Is this... Nope. Thurlow? What's his name? How do you pronounce that name? Thurlow?
Turlo, I think.
Thurlow.
Turlo.
Like furlough.
Turlo.
Yeah. Yeah, so he just, I guess, wanders off.
Yeah, he wanders.
And
he wanders off and gets stuck through a time corridor, I guess.
They really liked using the word time corridor without explaining what it was.
I guess it's just like a portal, if that makes sense.
It's a plot thing to make plot happen, really. And then we cut to Daleks killing even more people. My god, I really did not register how many people were getting killed in this episode. What I really liked about these Daleks is they could do trick shots. Like, if there were, like, say, 3 or 4 people, they could shoot one laser and hit all of them.
Also, can we talk about the doors in this spaceship? There's like a bit on the floor we have to step over every time we want to enter a new room. Do you see what I mean?
I did not even pick up on that. Let me see if I can see what you mean. She's putting in the key card. 4795's the code, if you're curious. I hope I'm at the right scene. I don't know.
It's like 1813 from my screen.
18. Oh, I'm a bit too far ahead. Let's go back. Oh my god, yeah, it's literally like someone cut. There's a hole in the wall.
Yeah, there's like 2 scenes where we have to encounter a door like this. Why?
Why not cut the extra, like, 12 inches, the extra foot?
Imagine if you're under attack and you have to run through this place and it's easy to trip over and you break your bones. Yeah. It doesn't make things easier.
They deserve to be defeated by the Daleks, really. The Doctor meets some, I guess, British Army soldiers who like hanging out in warehouses. I don't know why they're there, but
they're trying to
they
invest.
explain the Doctor has to leave, and the Doctor's like, "Well, I can't leave because my companion's an idiot, and he wandered away."
The soldiers were there to investigate the cylinders with the virus.
Ah.
The very heavy but also very light cylinders. like Tegan lifts it up as if it's like a pillow.
Oh my god, yeah, and she like fucking cuddles it, like. But she's just super strong.
But it's also supposed to be heavy because later on it takes 2 Daleks to try and lift it up.
Or are the Daleks just super weak? You know, they're just the weakest of the Doctor Who villains. But then we cut to the scene that I was talking about, where the Daleks trick shot people, and they kill like 5 folk with 1 laser shot. The downside to all the humans here is that they like to line up in a straight line, so the beam could go through them all.
Pretty much, yeah. There's like a point later on where somebody fights against a Dalek, and instead of hiding behind a wall and shooting that way, they just sort of like back up very slowly. It's ridiculous.
And then we get to the scene where I was like, oh, I kind of like this, I'm going to call him Thursey. I really like this Thursey guy. He's like he's on board the Dalek ship by accident. And he's like, fuck it, I'm going to fiddle with this door. So he starts fiddling with the door. Here's a Dalek coming. He's like, well, time to engage stealth mode. He hides, and the Dalek comes up in what I thought was actually, you know, a fairly decent bit of tension. There's like, I don't remember there being any music stings, and you just watch the Dalek just drive past, and it just doesn't look at him. The only downside is this Dalek is definitely one of the lesser looking models.
Yeah, it doesn't look great, does it?
No, it like the head's okay. It's the body, specifically the like black bars around it. Above the Dalek testicles, I'm going to call them, above the Dalek balls, that just looks like cardboard glued onto cardboard.
And also,
and
also it's where the design of the Daleks kind of come into question. Like, their focus is so narrow, but yet they're supposed to be like the most lethal killing weapons.
Yeah. It's you know, it's like the joke that they can't get upstairs.
Like, he's not really hiding, is he?
He's really not. He's just to the right of the Dalek. If it looked a little to the right, it would see.
Like, the Daleks need peripheral vision.
I'll tell you, New Who did a real lot to make the Daleks a threat again for a modern audience.
They really did. Like, the bulletproof and the fact that shooting the eye doesn't do anything. Like Wilf. Remember when Wilf shoots a paintball gun?
Yeah.
Like, they really did a lot to make the Daleks less of a joke. Because the Daleks, like, during this time, the Daleks were like advertising Kit Kats. That's how low of a joke the Daleks were.
They're very stupid, and their design doesn't make a lot of sense. However, it is probably one of the most iconic looking sci-fi villains of all time.
It really is.
Like it's inexplicable how well it is. But this is the scene where the Dalek goes through into a white room, the door starts to go down, and then the Dalek stops moving before the door goes down, and it just kind of stands there.
Oh yeah.
Which, budget stuff, they couldn't really do much about that. You clearly see a shadow form as it hits the wall.
Yeah. They really only had like one shot to do this, because on the commentary they had to explain how the lights of the building went off at 10 o'clock at night and there was no workaround. They had to be done by 10 o'clock.
Oh my god. What a nightmare filming Doctor Who back then must have been.
And it's like all multicam as well. It's like, it's really awkward to try and film this, I guess.
Yeah. One really cool thing here. After that scene, we cut to our two Peter Pan soldiers as they're trying to open some sort of box. I don't know what the box does. Does it let Davros out?
I cannot remember.
Yeah, but they're in Davros's hyperbolic chamber, essentially. And a thing that I just didn't even notice watching it, maybe I was looking at my phone or something, just in the background, in behind the blue screens, just Davros, and he looks terrifying back there.
Yeah, you can't quite make out who he is, but
yeah. You just kind of like, you see, if you watch the scene play out, the mist just kind of falls, and then he's just slowly revealed through the mist, and it's just done in the background, and it looks so cool.
Yeah, it looks really great. It's probably like the best design element of the episode, I would say, so far at least.
It's definitely the most sinister, I think, Davros looks in this episode, because when they start getting on the regular shots of Davros, it's an iffy looking costume.
Yeah.
It really, the Davros in this lived and died by the performance the actor gave, whose name I'm forgetting, and he fucking killed it as Davros. I thought he was so good.
Terry Malloy. This is his first time being Davros, and he really nails it. So apparently Terry Malloy, he taped episodes off of his tape recorder, and he went around supermarkets just listening to Genesis of the Daleks over and over again, trying to get the speech mannerisms down. And he really does a great job. He's still Davros to this day.
Oh wow, really?
Not in the show, but he's about to do a story with David Tennant in Big Finish. So he still plays Davros.
That's great. I'm glad he's still getting work, because he, like, no one's terrible in this episode. There's no real bad performance, but when, like, Davros is giving his impassioned speeches, and really, like, the only acting he gets is his bottom lip.
Yeah.
And it's absolutely stellar. He does so much with it.
Like, apparently the outfit was really hard to breathe in. Like, apparently at the end of the day, there would be, like, a pool of sweat down at his chin. It doesn't sound pleasant.
Oh, yeah, that sounds absolutely terrible.
You okay there?
Yeah, I burped. We then cut back to the Doctor, and I might start skipping through a few relatively pointless scenes here, because we're an hour in and we are 20 minutes into a 80-minute episode. The Doctor talks to some army folks essentially about nothing. He asks them if they're the press or something. I don't remember what the point of this scene was or what happened. But we'll move on back to our Peter Panny boys. Something stinks, and then such a nice looking gore effect. It's so cool.
The gore effects look really good in this episode. It's just like a warty face and warty hands.
He's also missing 2 fingers, or he's bending them down. I can't tell, but yeah. So our lady Peter Pan soldier goes, "Oh God, what's that smell?" As we see the man Peter Pan soldier looking at Davros, he then slowly turns around to reveal half of his face melted and his hands scarred and burned and charred, and it is so gruesome, and way more gruesome than I was expecting from classic Doctor Who. You know, where it's like cheesy, haha, I'm the Doctor. Sort of like even modern Who doesn't get this violent. Like,
Yeah, they don't mutilate people straight on.
yeah. This is like the second body like knelt face thing that we've seen.
Yeah.
But it leads to the lady Peter Pan soldier shooting her friend dead with the toy gun that doesn't have a laser. Also, a thought I just had. Do you not think that the Dalek stormtroopers, essentially is what they are, the human Daleks, do you not think that they look like they're about to play laser tag?
I can see totally what you mean. The helmets, like in the commentary, the director was just commenting on the helmets. They look ridiculous, don't they?
They're so dumb. The helmets, essentially, for people that are listening that haven't watched the episode, if you imagine a Dalek's head, and then underneath the eye, just cut a place for your face to go, that's it. It's as dumb as it sounds.
There is no purpose other than to tell straight away that it's a Dalek soldier.
It's even got the like fucking Dalek balls around the helmet. Also, the Dalek soldiers' guns are just as stupid. I don't know how you would describe it, really. It's... Imagine like a toilet brush holder. You stick your hand in that, and then you stick the toilet brush on the top end.
Yeah.
Basically how it looks.
It doesn't look great.
And yeah, it's wonderful. And then oh my god, she just dies. They just shoot her. So many people die. I know we said that going in, but this really is so many people dying.
It's the highest it's the highest body count of any Doctor Who episode, I think.
It has to be. If there's one that beats it, I want to see that episode. And not like a crappy episode where like the planet gets destroyed, you know?
Like I don't think even Torchwood has this much of a body count.
And then we get a really cool shot of Davros's hyperbolic chamber opening up. The mist clears. We see Davros sitting bathed in blue light, and he looks cool as fuck.
Yes, it's amazing light and it looks really good. And the depth of field as well, just...
Yeah, it's one of the few really good shots in these two episodes. You know, because most of it is like fine. It's Doctor Who. They did it quick. They did it in a wide, and they got it done. And that shot is just it's extra nice. And also, this is a rather dark episode light-wise. You know, it's in a warehouse. It's in a spaceship. That blue light adds so much to the frame.
Yeah, it looks really crystal clear as well. It's incredible.
Mm-hmm. We cut back to Doctor and the soldiers, and it's the whole Doctor and the soldiers in the warehouse thing. To me, I thought was really rather boring, and it took a while before anything happened. But a Dalek teleports down, and they go, oh gosh, and they start firing. And I just noticed that the laser the Dalek fires doesn't come out of the whisk, the Dalek whisk.
Yeah, give me a second. I need to.
It kind of does. It like comes out halfway through. The Dalek's moving left and right, and then the laser's a static image that's kind of on top of where the whisk is.
Right, I can't see it because it's a cliffhanger for part 1, so I'll need to go to part 2 to see it.
The joys of BritBox, as they have it. As it was aired, the 46 minutes episode.
Give me a second, part 2. Okay, I see it. Yeah,
it's like a static.
Yeah, it doesn't work that well.
Yeah. And then that guy dies in the most overdramatic way possible. Whoa!
The extras really oversell it. Like Peter Davison makes fun of him in the commentary as well. It's amazing.
There's something to be said about sci-fi shows and the extras dying in over the top ways. Star Trek: The Next Generation, in like season 1 or season 2, it's a very famous clip. There's a red shirt who gets killed by like radiation poisoning or something, and he's like slaps his face. He's like, "Oh no!" And it's like incredibly cartoony and over the top. You just wonder what direction they gave to them, and then they went, "Yeah, okay."
The 80s were a wild time for like deaths in TV shows and movies.
Yeah, cocaine will do that to you. But then the soldiers start shooting at the Daleks, and these Daleks haven't had their new force fields yet, so the bullets cause the Dalek to just die. Oh, vision! They shoot the eye out.
Yeah.
Yeah, they blind the Dalek, which is a pretty effective method of defeating a Dalek. And then they just grab the boy.
Tegan gets knocked out.
Yeah, she just gets hit. And that's her basically for the episode. She gets knocked out and then she's in bed for a lot of it.
Yeah, in the 4-part story, she spends most of part 2 and most of part 3 in bed.
Easy money though, isn't it?
This is her.
Bet she was really happy when she read that.
This is her final episode as well, and she spends most of it in bed.
Yeah, she gets knocked out very unceremoniously, like just in a scuffle.
By a plunger.
Yeah. And then the Doctor executes a Dalek by shoving it out a window.
An iconic shot. It's great.
I'll tell you, the explosion when the Dalek hits the ground looks really good.
Yeah, it looks great.
Yeah. This episode's really like back and forth on which effects it wants to do really well and which ones it doesn't care that much about. Hang on. The Doctor runs up to what's her name?
Tegan.
Yeah, he runs up to her, checks on her. She's all right. We should get her downstairs. Then he turns around and walks away. He doesn't offer to pick her up. He doesn't try. He's like, she's fine.
I think he has to go outside to make sure the Dalek doesn't escape from its casing, I guess. Because he wants to go outside. I'm not sure why.
Yeah, perhaps. But, yeah, he's very weird in these episodes. He's so aggressive and so not caring about people. Oh, excuse me. So not caring about people for a lot of it.
Well, in 2 stories, he regenerates and tries to kill his companion, so not quite as bad yet.
Fantastic. I'm going to skip on up a bit forwards because basically nothing happens, to our friend, whatever I called him. I'm going to call him Terry now. Our friend Terry, continuing to hide from the Daleks. He's a master sneak. So, like, he's incredibly good at hiding from the Daleks. I think right up until here where he gets caught because a door doesn't open. Oh no, never mind. He escapes. The door open. Look at that. What a...
There's not really much point of him just wandering around the ship, is there?
It doesn't do anything. It doesn't add to the plot. It is there to fill the time.
Like he runs into the guards later, but it could have been at any point. He doesn't need to have. It's just redundant.
It's literally just there to pad the runtime, which I don't understand because they could use it to explore the more plot that they shove into the next episode. But he discovers a bunch of dead bodies, and again, the gore on the dead bodies is really good. They're like rotting, mutilated corpses. And it's really dark for Doctor Who.
Hi. You skipped over a lot there. Where are you?
I am 25 minutes in.
Okay.
I skipped over one scene.
Okay, I see. You're still in the door scene. Okay.
Yeah.
My bad. But yeah, the effects look really solid.
Yeah, I really enjoyed really enjoyed the gore effects in this episode. Whoever had doing the makeup, round of applause to makeup person, because they did a very good job. We cut to Davros sitting in his chair, and he looks like a doll.
He looks like a passed out grandpa after a Christmas dinner.
Kind of looks like a puppet, you know?
Like he just said something racist and he's just angry and bitter.
Yeah. And then we cut to the army discovering, I guess, the bomb things. It's one of the scenes where Lady Companion, whose name doesn't want to stay in my head, is in bed. And honestly, for all of those scenes, I wasn't paying attention. Like it did not grab my attention at all. I thought it was so. I was like, oh, okay. I'm not. It's set up for this. It's so boring.
Yeah, I understand being bored by that. I don't mind it as much because I've been watching classic Doctor Who for years. I can understand why it's boring. It is a bit dull, isn't it?
Yeah, I like the stuff with Davros. I liked when Davros was on screen, because I think the performance really carries. Davros then has a discussion with his first lieutenant.
Yeah, Lytton. Lytton. It's his character's name. You don't remember that, but
and they talk about the Daleks' defeat in battle, or something of that nature.
Yeah, that would have been the last episode, written by Douglas Adams.
Ah, wonderful Douglas Adams.
Sorry, a little bit of trivia. Terry Nation, the guy who created the Daleks, almost didn't approve this episode because Douglas Adams didn't stop making fun of the Daleks in the last story. So he was like, no more jokes about the Daleks, take them seriously. I think that's part of why this episode is so dark.
That would make sense. I would really like to cover that episode with Douglas Adams making fun of Daleks. It sounds fantastic.
I don't remember them making too much fun of the Daleks. I think it was just like funny lines from Tom Baker. I don't remember that episode too much. It's not that great.
It's Douglas Adams. He's a national treasure. Our good friend Terry is then walking through even more corridors, and he sees the cloning room with the bubble wrap bed that they stick the Doctor.
Yes, so much of Doctor Who, like from the 60s to the 80s, is just bubble wrap.
What I really appreciated about this is later on in the episode, when they make the Doctor sit on the cloning bed, you hear the bubble wrap pop.
I did not catch that. So in the background of a scene, I guess, is his cloned body. I'm not quite sure how they clone their bodies. Does that make sense to you?
No, it really confused me, the whole cloning bodies thing.
It doesn't make sense.
It doesn't come back up.
Yeah.
I don't remember them getting rid of the clones.
So the Daleks don't meet Turlough or Tegan, and somehow they're able to create a perfect replica body of them, but they need their minds? But they're essentially like robots. Why not just program them? It doesn't make sense.
It really doesn't make sense. It's one of the storylines. There's you could fit 3 full Dalek arcs.
Yeah.
Out of these episodes with the ideas that they're throwing around.
Like the Daleks creating clones of the Doctor to overthrow Gallifrey. That's something. And this is going on a tangent here, but Russell T Davies considers this to be like a first step to the Time War because of the Daleks trying to overthrow Gallifrey. It's like, I think it's the first time we've ever done this, so...
Yeah, the beginning of the tensions between the two races.
Even though it's not really anything special, but still.
We then cut back to the Doctor, and he gets handed a gun by the soldier, And when he gets handed it, he looks a bit disappointed. He's like, "Oh God, you're giving me a gun? What's my duty here?" And then he never worries about it again, and he's more than happy to be a doctor with a gun.
It's a realistic gun as well. It's like, it's not like a special ray or anything. It's like a realistic gun. It's insane.
It's just it's a pistol, and the doctor's going to use it.
He almost shoots a cat.
He does almost shoot a cat. And then we go to we go to the beginning of one of my favorite scenes in this episode, where we see a soldier smoking a fag or a cigarette, I guess, in the warehouse where they just defeated the Dalek, and then you see the remainder of the Daleks, like parts slowly start to rock back and forth as the mutant underneath it is coming back alive.
Mm-hmm.
And it's I love that whole scene that comes out of it, which we'll get into in a moment. We then cut to the crystal ball again. I don't remember the crystal ball playing such a big part in this episode, but they're using it. They're loving it.
Yeah, we're watching over Turlough. We're like, hey, we can use him as bait to get the Doctor, but the Doctor was going to be there anyway. Like, you don't need bait.
Surely just having him on the ship's bait enough, because the Doctor's going to be searching for his friend.
Yeah, it doesn't quite... There's a lot about their plan that doesn't quite make sense.
Well, that's because their plan is like 12 different plans.
Yes.
Although that was one thing that I really did like in it, is it's Davros working with the Daleks, and the Daleks trying to double cross Davros while Davros is trying to double cross the Daleks.
Yeah, there's a lot. I really like their chemistry. It's something special.
Yeah, I really like the tenuous relationship Davros has with the Daleks, where he's their creator, but the Daleks think that they're the superior race to everything, so surely, Davros is below them because he's not a full Dalek like they are. And it's that constant battle between those two. I absolutely love that.
Also, during this episode, the companion so far, Turlough is being used as bait, and Tegan got wiped out by a plunger. That's their arc so far.
And we're 30 minutes in.
Compare that to the companions with the 13th Doctor. At least they're doing something. At least.
Yeah. We then cut back to our spaceship buddies as they're going up against the Stormtrooper Daleks in a Laser Quest battle. And do they just murder them all?
No, I think they're still alive at the end.
Oh no, they do. They shoot them all dead.
Right. Okay.
They shoot them all dead. It was hard to tell because the guns don't have lasers. It's just a flashing light bulb. But no, they murdered every single. There's 8 guys there. They gunned them all down.
This is also the part where the guy loudly exclaims, "But there's guards coming. Be quiet." They knock out the guards, and they start whispering.
Yeah. Yep. It's really some ingenious, direction and instincts from the actor.
It doesn't make any sense.
It really doesn't. Then we cut back to the best scene in the entire episode. Soldier sees the mutant breathing and moving and looking all weird, and it's oh gosh, what's that creepy monster? The mutants in this look really weird. I'm so used to New Who's version of the Dalek mutants.
Yeah, they kind of changed the designs of the mutants whenever they appeared on screen. It doesn't stay consistent at all.
They kind of just look like jellyfish in this one. Like a beached jellyfish.
Yeah.
And then we cut to the Doctor and his companion in bed, and the Doctor is still really hesitant with the gun. He's holding it, inspecting it,
You just said the Doctor and his companion in bed.
Inspecting his gun. The doctor, he's still not liking his gun, and he gives it to the soldier. He's like, oh god, I don't want to use the gun. I've got to go find my friend Terry Turlow. That's his name.
You finally remembered his name. Well done.
I'm gonna lie. I have subtitles on. As I'm going, and they said his name. So the doctor gives his gun to the soldier, and then we hear a scream from the other room where the soldier that was inspecting the mutant comes from.
Yeah.
And then the doctor goes, aha! And he grabs the gun back from the soldier and goes charging through into the next room. So he was hesitant. He's like, I don't want to use guns. I'm guns. I'm the doctor. That's not how I work. Oh, someone's screaming. Give me the gun.
It really is so weird to see the doctor with a gun. I'm sorry.
It's like it was weird when Matt Smith did it as well.
Yeah.
In the Angels episode, I wasn't a fan of that either.
It's either John Nathan Turner and Moffat. They're both into the doctor having guns for some odd reason.
Yeah, I don't get. It's like the one thing that I think the Doctor should never do. He's not an action hero, you know.
Yeah.
He should just go in with guns waving. He needs to use his mind and his intellect to solve the problems, and his sonic screwdriver.
Mm-hmm. Which I think was destroyed at this point. Yeah, it was destroyed at this point because the script writers were like, the Doctor is overusing this sonic screwdriver, let's just destroy it, and it didn't come back.
Give him a gun.
It didn't come back for years. Yeah, give him a gun.
Yeah. But they run up and we see the mutant sucking face on the soldier, and the Doctor's like, God damn, we need to find that mutant and kill it. We need to kill the mutant before it kills one of us. We're gonna murder it. Which is just wonderful. He's so charming in this episode. We cut back to Davros and the Daleks talking about some bullshit. I think this is where it's revealed that the Daleks are wanting to double cross Davros, or is that a little bit later on?
I believe it's around this time, but also Davros somehow knows the Doctor is a Time Lord, even though that's never come up before. I don't know how he got this information. It doesn't make any sense.
A wizard did it. But then we cut back to the Doctor and the soldiers searching around the room very slowly, looking for this mutant. And then, for some reason, I didn't quite get this scene, we cut to the outside where we see a soldier trying to use the phone.
Yeah.
But the line's been cut. So he's like, oh, there's 2 policeman officers. I'll go over to them. Hello, policeman officer. Can I use your radio? He says. The policeman officer doesn't reply. And so he goes, please may I use your radio, policeman officer? And the policeman officer hands him the radio. The radio doesn't work. And he goes, it's dead. And then the policeman officer shoots him.
It's a rather theatrical ruse, isn't it? They could have just shot him straight there. They didn't need to cut the phone cords. They didn't need to hand him a broken walkie-talkie. They could have just shot him right there. They
needed the pun, but they needed the pun. And then we cut to more fucking Terry sneaking around. He really does nothing this entire episode.
Yeah.
It's just him walking into rooms.
It's all companions at this point. Like, they didn't, like, between the 4th Doctor, like, near the end of his run and till, like, the 7th Doctor when he got Ace, the companions were all just useless. Ace was, like, the first companion in a long time that actually did shit.
Well, if you call your companion Ace, you're kind of setting a standard. We then cut briefly back to the warehouse room. See, we're cutting all over the place. There's so much happening, and yet nothing happens. But
yeah, I think on the commentary, the actress who says Tegan says, there's so much quick cutting. Sometimes the script has like 80 scenes, just because they keep on cutting every like 30 seconds. That's how.
Yeah, It's really, they're cutting fast here.
It doesn't give you any time to settle into a scene. Like the scene where the Dalek blob attacks the guy could have been one scene, but instead it got split up into like 2 or 3 scenes. If that makes sense. It's like it doesn't give you time to breathe.
But we do get one nice scene that they give a little bit of time to breathe, which is Davros talking with his first lieutenant, whose name I've already forgotten.
Lytton
the lieutenant. And they start talking about, I think it was like 2 war machines that like were stuck in deadlock basically between the Daleks and the humans or whatever it was that they were fighting, and it was just mutual destruction on both sides, and that's why they've come back to Davros. But he's not going to let them take control. And this was the speech that I thought really sold me on this actor as Davros, where his exact lines are, "Under my control, the Daleks shall once more become triumphant." And the way he just shouts while he's sitting, he gets so much across when all you can see is his mouth moving. Like
he is so good at monologuing. He's excellent. Later on in the episode, there's a point where he keeps on shouting louder and louder, and on the set on the day, the guy running the audio had to keep turning the volume down because he just kept on shouting too loud. So whenever he got higher, the audio had to go lower.
It was he's committed to his performance. But then we cut back to Terry Tarnation, and he's playing a video game now. He hides behind the Dalek, and then he uses that, and he gets behind, and there's some conveniently placed pillars which he can crouch behind. And then we cut back to Davros. There's literally, it's just there so that we can go from Davros from one location to the next.
Yeah, a lot of this really needs to be caught. Like,
Davros talks some more, and this I really liked this bit where basically the Daleks are trying to double cross Davros. Davros has kind of caught wind of this. He knows his lieutenant is working for the Daleks and not him. There's an engineer working on Davros's suit or his like chair, and so Davros sticks him with like a brainwashing knife basically, and turns him to his side so Davros can start working on his plan to take over the Daleks. I thought it was very fun and clever.
Yeah, I just love all the double crossing. It gets complicated, but not too complicated. It's like the one thread of this episode that actually works all the way.
Yeah, it made the scenes really watchable in the muddled mess of the other scenes that were going on around it. But
Davros is such an interesting character, though. Like, I could just watch him all day.
Yeah, one of the most interesting Doctor Who villains that really he's been explored a fair amount by this point. But I've, like, in New Who, I mean, you might be a different opinion of me than that because you watched a lot of classic Who. But like, as someone who's mainly only watched New Who, I've always loved every Davros appearance whenever he shows up. Even when it gets big and bombastic with like the David Tennant stuff and things like that, I've always loved him when he comes into the show. I think he just adds something fun and sinister whilst calling back to the slight cheesiness of his outfit, you know?
I think my favourite Davros scenes come from the Peter Capaldi episode, where it's just him and Peter Capaldi sitting down reminiscing about their past. And there's whenever the Doctor and Davros share a scene, an intimate scene together, it's just really solid. I can just watch a whole movie like that, honestly.
Yeah, it's so good. It's like the Doctor, specifically Capaldi's Doctor, I could sit and listen to him chat with any great arch villain.
Yeah.
For the end of time, you know, like the thing that made Capaldi's Doctor, for me at least, was his war speech in the Zygon invasion. Like that was the turning point for me with Capaldi, where I was like, oh, I've fallen in love with you. This is such a good speech. And then, yeah, I could just listen to like with his stuff with Missy. I love Capaldi. Love Capaldi. Got really hard done by, I think, by a lot of the fans.
Yes, especially at the beginning where people are like, "Oh, he's too old. He's not hot enough," and it's just.
See, the way that I like thought of that when it was first announced, right? Because this was before the Timeless Child nonsense. Matt Smith was the last one in the 13 regenerations that Time Lords get, and so the Time Lords gave him a new set of regenerations. And so when the Doctor regenerated, he was an old man again because he was back to his first regeneration. That's the way that I canoned it in my head to like people that were like, he's too old. Like, yeah, I mean, it doesn't really matter, does it?
Yeah.
But I just thought it was fun.
That's fair.
But then in the episode, we cut to, again, one of the best scenes in the episode, which I thought I had some real horror movie tension to it.
It reminds me of Alien.
Yeah, complete with the cat. Where they're looking around the room for the thing. They see a bag moving up and down, and the music starts swelling. They're like, oh god, it's a jump scare's coming. We've got to get ready to shoot this thing. Got to get ready. And then, predictably, like every horror movie, it's the cat, which I think Community, the TV show Community, really ruined any cat thing that showed up. They made fun of it in their zombie episode, where a cat keeps jump scaring them, and Jeff's like, okay, everybody stop. There's an insane cat in this room, and we need to deal with it. Like,
what season was this?
Maybe season 2 or 3.
I watched the first 3 seasons, and I do not remember this at all.
Oh,
I guess,
yeah, man, you need to.
I guess I need.
Community.
Yep. I never finished that show.
I've seen it through like 3 times.
I got stuck on season 4. Let's just say that, the Gas Lake year.
It's a rough one. The zombie episode of Community is season 2, episode 6, Epidemiology.
Real appropriate for these times.
Yeah, it's a very good episode. But yeah, that I think makes fun of the horror movie cat in the just most perfect way. Which Doctor Who utilizes in this episode when he gets jump scared by a cat, and he's like, "Whew, I almost killed you, Mr. Cat." And then, gosh behold, wouldn't you know, whilst they all had their backs turned, the mutant is making out with one of the soldiers. And then they grab the mutant, and this bit I thought was rough as heck. They grab the mutant in a blanket, throw it down, and then the Doctor and a soldier just unload the entire clip.
There's also no bullet holes.
Yeah, there's no bullet holes in anything the entire show. But like, I just the image of seeing the Doctor throw a living creature to the ground and unload an entire round of bullets into it.
So I watched this episode the other night. I almost sent you a picture of this image, just of a Doctor shooting at the blanket, but I decided against it because I thought it would be better as a surprise.
Yeah, it's certainly a surprise.
Just him holding it with 2 hands, just rapidly firing. It's just insane.
Yeah, it's absolutely insane. And to my knowledge, the Doctor's never done anything like that since.
I didn't read the whole article, but I looked up an article of every time the Doctor used the gun. And this is something funny from that part. It said in Hellbent, where he shoots Ken Bones because Clara died, and he's really rather angry about that. I don't know who Ken Bones is.
I don't remember when Clara died, so that would be Capaldi.
Yeah, but he shoots Ken Bones. I mean, I think
I'm gonna Google him.
I don't know who Ken Bones is.
Ken Bones. He's a Time Lord.
He's an English actor. He is a member of the Royal Shakespeare Company.
He played the Time Lord in the 50th anniversary.
I don't know.
I'll send you an image of him. You'll recognize his face. I don't remember the Doctor shooting him.
I think he's a Time Lord, so I guess it doesn't really count, but still, it's taken away a life.
Is this the what? Does he? Does the doctor shoot him and then he turns into the lady?
I think that's it, yes.
Yeah. Because it's this guy.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
I don't remember the doctor shooting him to cause him to regenerate, but I guess that's what happened.
Well, we'll get to that episode eventually. What a wild episode.
Yeah. But the doctor executes the mutant, and the soldier's pretty much fine. He's just in a bit of shock, they say. So they take him down to medical. And then they explain everything. And then our friend Terry finally gets captured. In a scene that I thought was great. He gets captured, and then the guy goes, "Kill him!" And then the other guy goes, "Wait, we'll question him first." It's just like, why? Why? You've been watching him the whole time. Why question him? You know?
None of the motives really line up.
I'm gonna skip ahead because it's just people walking. We see the doctor walking down a corridor with Stein.
I do have a story about this shot in particular. So at this point, the director asked the scriptwriter how he would like the shot to look, and it's at this point where John Nathan Turner, the producer, took the director aside and shouted at him because he took advice from the scriptwriter, because he hated the scriptwriter, and he just verbally abused the director for consulting.
Oh god, that sounds fucking horrendous.
Like, the director almost quit because of this, because he was getting abused on set.
Yeah, no doubt. That's like so unprofessional.
And also, you know how Tegan is dressed in short skirt and high heels?
Mm-hmm.
It's
Yeah.
because John Nathan Turner thinks it's for the dads. He over sexualizes the woman in the show for the dads. It's just it's really outdated.
That's really yucky. That's very, very yucky.
Like, the next companion to replace this one, her first shot in the show is her in a bikini. Have you ever seen Perry before?
No, I've not.
Perry first scene. Like, the first shot of Perry, she's saved from drowning, she's in a bikini. And there's also a robot. The Doctor also travelled with a robot at this time. It wasn't K9. It was called Chameleon. But the robot prop kept on breaking, so it wasn't on.
Do you think we'll see they'll bring the robot back?
I don't think so.
Wow, it's like a proper small two-piece as well.
Yeah.
That's surprising for 1980s TV.
It's the first shot of this new companion.
What did you say?
It's the first shot of this new companion on the show, and it's like, really, it's like a shot from the navel upwards. Like, you see the underwear, I mean, it goes up, and you see the bra, and you see the face. It's like,
The past is a gross time.
Yeah.
The past is a very gross time. But we back to the episode that's taking so long to get through. It's shocking.
It really is. Sorry about that detour.
The Davros talks about his time in the I'm going to call it hyperbolic chamber, where he's talks about being conscious and how that they're not going to execute you if they capture you, but they'd slowly torture you, so he's going to do the same to them. And then we cut to Terry, and it turns out that the people that caught him were actually the good guys that stole the uniforms beforehand.
Yes.
Which, you know, it's a shocking twist, and I didn't care about it.
Yeah, I find it hard to care about any of the companions at this point. It's just, they do nothing.
Yeah, I mean, Terry has spent the past 35 minutes in a 40-minute episode walking down corridors until he accidentally gets caught by the good guys, and that's it. Then
We're
the
like-
episode ends.
We're like almost 15 minutes into the episode, and he says
Yeah.
like 10 lines.
Yeah. It's ridiculous. Then we've got some drama with the soldiers not wanting to do some stuff. Honestly, who gives a shit? Then we cut to the Daleks for literally 2 seconds as they open the door before cutting away again. This episode's all over the place.
Like, they didn't... Like, imagine how long that took to set up that shot, to have all the Daleks stand there, to put on all the lights. Like, I must have
Yeah.
taken, like, I don't know, like 45 minutes at least.
For a shot that's literally 2 seconds of the Dalek turning around as a door opens.
Yeah.
We then cut to a soldier patrolling through the warehouse, and he stumbles across the bunch of Daleks that have teleported in. They're all shouting "exterminate," and they murder him dead.
Yeah, so
I'm
instead of hiding behind one of the pillars, he just
stands there.
Yeah.
Yeah. He stands there, and then they go to escape. But I'm guessing these are clone soldiers now.
Yeah, they're all brainwashed or cloned. They could have been
Yeah.
brainwashed, they could have been cloned. Pick one.
They're brainwashed clones. They come back to the companion, and they basically are essentially trapping them in this medical room that they're in. Davros's plan's working very well. Mwahahaha. He says that he's very difficult to kill. I think he's talking to the Daleks about them trying to betray him at this point.
Mm.
Again, the episode's just fucking wild. Oh, there was a scene here where we cut back to the medical room. I know we were just there, but we're back. And there was just a line. I just want to hear it again, make sure I'm not insane. Yeah,
line?
it's mainly the lady's accent, I think. But she goes, I don't think we should wait for the ambulance.
She's Australian, stop making fun of her.
It's a very funny way of saying ambulance. It's just the ambulance. It gave me some joy, but basically this scene, they're figuring out that these guys are possibly not right because one of the soldier has the handgun that he gave the doctor, but the doctor still has that handgun. So how can this guy possibly have it? There's one explanation: he's a clone. That's the only explanation. He tells them that they can't leave or they're going to die. The doctor's back in the TARDIS with our friend Stein. He says that he's going to drop him off when he gets Terry. But then that guy's like, oh, no, I'll just come with you. And the doctor's like, oh, fair, sweet. And they start traveling, but the TARDIS immediately goes wrong because he gets caught in the time corridor. It's back. You thought it was gone? You're wrong. It's back. They're preparing the cloning room for the doctor because they've caught the TARDIS. And they cause the TARDIS to teleport onto the Dalek ship. It has taken 56 minutes for the doctor to go from a warehouse into the Dalek ship when Terry Tarnation wandered into it within 2 seconds.
It is a long episode. We're only 2 hours in.
Yeah, I know. The doctor comes out. He calls for Terry Tarnation. He calls for him again. And our friend Stein's looking awfully casual. He walks up. He grabs a gun. Then this bit I also thought was weird. One of the Dalek security guards comes running in, and the doctor's like, "Fuck you!" Immediately takes him down to the ground and steals his gun. Like, the doctor's so violent, and then he's pointing the gun at him, ready to kill him. But the twist of the episode comes. The cliffhanger for next episode. Our good friend Stein is actually working with the Daleks.
Yeah, it's a twist, all right. What did you feel about the twist? Did
I
you
thought
see
it
it
was
coming?
a pretty good. Honestly, no, but I think that's mainly because I was paying half attention.
One of the things that doesn't work about this twist is he keeps a stutter even when he's alone. I'm not sure if it's supposed to be a facade or if he's breaking his conditioning there, or
Yeah.
it's really rather loose in terms of plotting.
Yeah, it's all over the place. It's all over the place. But that brings us to the end of part 1 of this this storyline, Resurrection of the Daleks. So, my thoughts on part 1 of this storyline is it's kind of all over the place. The Doctor's really aggressive, and I feel like I want to like Peter Davidson as the Doctor. Like, he's not doing a bad performance, but he's so far unrecognizable as the Doctor to me. Just because this is my first story, and as you were saying, this is a really strange story for the Doctor to have. He's written really weirdly in it. I think the pacing's all over the place, but that could be down to it being 2 episodes smushed into one, because of Le Winter Olympics. I didn't hate it. I just think it's a bit messy, and if you cut some stuff out, you'd have a really, really good, like, solid Dalek episode of Doctor Who.
That's fair. Full disclosure on this one, I picked the episode, but I picked it because I remembered it being so much better than it actually is. Like, as a kid, I was kind of traumatized by how dark it was. Like, just the opening of the policemen shooting down random civilians. Like, it kind of traumatized me to the point where I was scared of policemen. So I remember this episode being, like, really almost top tier level, and it's okay. It's okay.
Yeah, it's okay.
It's kind of like this era of Doctor Who is not that great overall. It's where stuff started sliding downhill really quickly. It's not as bad as it gets. Like, season 24 is the worst. But it's the start of a downfall for Doctor Who, I would say.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode of Who Watches Who, a Doctor Who podcast. We will be back next week with part 2 of Resurrection of the Daleks. In the meantime, you can find us on Facebook at Who Watches Who, on YouTube Who Watches Who. This podcast is available wherever you get podcasts. What else am I missing here, Scott? What am I forgetting to say?
Email us at whowatcheswhopod@gmail.com. Any questions, any feedback, anything, just send something in, please.
Yeah, send us an email. Other than that, I think that does us for this week. Follow us on Twitter at WatchesWho. Or Who Watches. I think it's at Who Watches. Other than that, I guess I'll see you next week with part 2.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.